a beautiful trip to Europe, and I just had this realization that when we are on this beautiful journey of the heart, where pure bhakti or pure love is the glue that brings everyone together, even though our schedule was packed so tight, Durga Devi and Nitai, they wanted to make sure that we had to work really hard for our khichdi every day. So we had sometimes two programs a day with retreats and Kesharini as well. But it was a lot of fun. Mantrini, all the incredible organizers. Yeah. I wanted to ask maybe one person at least. Nadine. I met Nadine just very randomly. And Mantrini brought her over and said, Hey, Nadine, you should join us. Nadine had no idea what she got herself into. And she's a very staunch German. And she joined us on a little tour. She drove around with us. There was roughly any given time, 8 to 10 to 15 people traveling from one retreat center to another. So it was a party all along the way. So Nadine, you want to give us a brief part of your journey, what happened with you and what you experienced and what you saw and how healing and heart opening the whole experience was?
Yes, I would love to. I don't know where to start. First of all, hello everybody. Um, I was somehow kidnapped by the group. In the beginning, I thought I would spend a weekend in Radhadesh with Mantrini, and we will have some temple visits and just a calm trip. But out of the sudden, I was in a group of incredible people. I cannot say it in a different way, but I never felt this loved and this seen and this. Yeah, they gave me so much attention. It was just heart opening, to be honest. I don't know who knows the statue of Hanuman in Rishikesh. He opens his chest and you see Sita and Ram. And then when I would like to describe this trip, it's like I open my chest and there's Krishna and Radha, of course, but the whole group, like Ramananda and Miriam and Mantrini and Durga and Nitai and Kesharini, everybody's dancing around. And it was amazing. We had so many programs, and I think for a lot of people, it was me included, it was absolutely, it was amazing. I healed a lot, and yeah, I'm able to stand up and to speak for myself. And I'm really resistant to love sometimes, so I really want to close myself and hide myself somewhere. But in this group of loving people, it was just not possible. It took, I don't know, 4 days, and yeah, a lot of exchanges, especially with Mantrini, and then they catched my heart. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was amazing. And on the programs, we met so many incredible people, and it was everywhere the same. The people, they were somehow stressed, they were suffering from pain, they were suffering from, yeah, strange thoughts in their mind. But after the programs, I had the feeling like something released, you could see it in their faces. They looked softer. They were, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It was incredible. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Nadine.
you, Veda.
It's funny because Nadine was thinking to stay there for a weekend and she ended up staying with us for a week and longer and longer and longer and then finally back in Germany and yeah, it was so nice. Okay, one more and then we'll discuss on the topic. How about Miriam? Miriam is from Luxembourg So,
Hey,
Mark, we have another. How do you call someone from Luxembourg? Luxembourgian? Do you call them a Luxembourgian? What do you call them?
Luxemburger.
Luxemburger.
Yeah,
Ah, nice one. So you have another Luxemburger here.
there's two of us.
Yes.
Two of us here. Oh, that's cool.
How rare is that? Country of what, 500,000 people, and we got two of them on this call?
Right. Um, oh, okay, cool. Hi everyone. What do you want us to share, Veda? What the week was?
Well, yeah, when what happened to you? Why were you crying so much?
I think Nadine really put it very well. I'm not such a good talker as Nadine, so yeah, I really feel what Nadine said. I felt a lot of healing, a lot of love. Um, yeah, so much power. I feel recharged. Yeah, I'm very grateful for everything that happened, for all the bonds we could create. I didn't know all of the MSI Europe people except Ramananda and Matrini. So I've made a lot of friends, new friends. I'm very grateful about that. And yeah, it was really beautiful, as Nadine said as well. After the program, everybody felt like very, or seemed to be releasing so much pain and suffering. And I guess that happened also to us. So thank you, Veda, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Miriam. Okay, we have a topic we wanted to discuss today. And of course, after this beautiful journey in Europe, for me, I was so tired and exhausted physically. Somehow, I don't know how I was able to manage such a tight schedule. But my heart was so nourished to see such sincere, loving, kind souls in every one of the events. And it seems like every one of the events was like a house full, and every one of them was very deeply connecting. So I feel it wasn't work, it was actually a vacation that I was on, even though we were on the go and running on 3, 4 hours of sleep. So I guess this is what spiritual nourishment does. It actually fills the very need that all aspects of our needs can be met through loving spiritual relationships. So, our topic today is emotional debt. And because a lot of the work we did was bhakti, heart opening work, and bhakti generally is the spiritual emotion of the heart that is expressed through loving actions. So, this topic I thought was something I was thinking about how this emotional debt is the price we pay for abandoning our heart. So, this is what emotional debt means: the price we pay for abandoning our heart. What it is, what this is unintegrated emotions or emotional energy that leads into different behaviors. That was my realization. And doing this work in all these parts of the world, I realized how people were actually paying their debts by sitting with their emotions and sitting with themselves and recognizing the beauty that these emotions have to offer. Yesterday, just yesterday, we celebrated an incredible festival. And the festival is the appearance day of Narasimha Dev. It's a divine form that is half lion and half man. And the story was beautiful of how this incarnation takes place. This great king named Hiranyakashipu, he had he was one of the greatest engineers of his time. Such great was his engineering prowess that he was able to control the whole cosmic creation by the sheer power that he achieved through meditation and austerities and deep devotion to Brahma, the creator. And Brahma gave him this deep, detailed benedictions where he was almost immortal. Such was the engineering of his benediction that he asked that he not die during the day and he not die at night, that he may not die in the water, nor may he die in land, that he doesn't die in the sky, doesn't die in earth. So all the scope of human imagination, he covered all of that. All of it. In other words, he was immortal. No one could ever kill him. But the interesting thing is that there is this little prince named Prahlad who was only 5 years old. And all he knew from when he was in the womb of his mother, that bhakti or pure love is the most powerful, omnipotent force in the world. So when he came into this world, all he did is he took shelter of this deep principle of deep spiritual love. And he cultivated this love every single day of his life. So what happens? His father, who's almost engineered immortality, cannot be killed by anyone, man, woman, God, human, earth, sky, inside, outside, in the sea, outside of the sea. He had engineered his immortality, so he thought. But when his own son, Prahlad, this 5-year-old prince, he did not bow to his engineering prowess, then his ego was extremely deflated and hurt. That how can somebody who's my child, only 5 years old, defy my engineering prowess? He could control when the sun would rise, when the rain would fall, when the season would come about. Imagine his prowess. So finally, he approached his son with a lot of rage, and he asked his son, "My dear child, I would like to know, why is it that everyone in the world bows to me and surrenders to me and follows my commands? You, being my only child, refuse to take my commands. What is the source of your power?" And this 5-year-old child replies by saying, "My dear father, the love that you have in your heart is the same love that I have in my heart. And that love, that loving embodiment, is the source of all the creations in the world. And that love is Krishna. Krishna, one who is all attractive in my heart." So his father did not like his answer. He wanted his son to be destroyed. So he tried in every possible way to torture his son, but his son only had one emotion in his heart, and that is emotion of pure loving connection with the divine. And that connection was so intense that this whole universal cosmic superpower protected him from every danger in his life. So then his father thought, okay, I will now use all my powers to eliminate this son, my son. So he asked his son, my dear child, the Lord of your heart, you say he's all pervading, he's everywhere. Is he in the sky? He said, yes. Is he on the earth? Yes. Is he in this pillar? He pointed at his pillar in his palace. And he said, yes. So he smashes that pillar. And from this pillar comes out this form, Narasimha. Nara means human, Simha means lion. The best of the humans and best of the lions. And as soon as this form comes out of this pillar, Hiranyakashipu, the best engineer of his own destiny, the best engineer in this entire creation, who engineered his immortality, was completely shocked. And he was completely frozen in his tracks. Why? Because he had never seen a form like this. He was calculating his engineering prowess. I have the benediction that I will not get killed by a man or a beast. And this person is neither a man nor a beast. And this person that I'm looking at, I have the blessings that I will not be killed by any weapons made by anyone in the world. But this form doesn't carry any weapons, and he has nails that are shining like thunderbolts. And his teeth are shining like diamonds and crystals. These are the weapons. And he's looking at his prowess and his calculations, his engineering prowess. And this form defies all engineering prowess. And of course, a big fight happened, and this best engineer in the world was destroyed with nails. So the reason I'm sharing this is the emotional debt, and what is this connection here? Is because he is the divine incarnation of junctions in our lives. In Sanskrit, we call it sandhi. In our lives, we have junctions. We have happiness and distress. There is a junction in between happiness and distress. Loss or gain, victory or defeat, failure and success. They're all these junctions in our life. And those junctions are very, very important in all of our lives. So how to see love personified appears in different junctions in our life. And that is why we're talking about emotional debt. We all experience so many emotions in our lives, and we deprive these emotions of their belonging in our life because they are given to us for a unique purpose. And we reject them, we deny them their space. So, this is the emotional debt, the price we pay for abandoning our heart. What that means is we are by design meant to be situated always in our heart, filled with love and joy, eternally experiencing this transcendental bliss. So why then? Why then are we leaving our home? And what happens when we leave our home? So the sages explain to us that what this emotional debt, how it overpowers our very nature of who we are. So, this emotional debt is unprocessed experiences that continue to demand payment over time. So, keep in mind, emotional debt, it wants to get paid because it is something that we have invested in. We have left our home and we have invested ourselves in this emotional debt, and it needs to be paid. And how do we pay over time with these emotions? And how to actually pay off the debt and be free forever? So, this is the discussion today. So, in the next 25 minutes, we'll try and cover this. So, emotional debt, we borrow against our truth. The truth is our heart. And this emotional debt we borrow is we end up paying it over time because we think that we will sit with this and we don't have to pay. But we do have to pay. So, how do we pay this debt? Emotional debt is paid through suppressing our emotions, by ignoring our emotions and letting our emotions become numb to the point when the interest accumulates, emotional debt, the interest accumulates and it turns into anxiety, depression, discontentment, and guilt, and many other deep emotions. And now, please keep in mind the mind keeps an account of all the debt that we take because the mind never forgets the debt that you have incurred. For example, all the bad experiences we have in our lives, we're not able to forget them. And why is that? Because the mind is the perfect accountant. It keeps track, it keeps track of all the loans that it has taken. And not only that, it amplifies it with a lot more interest because the mind is like a loan shark. You know what a loan shark is in Europe? Is there a term in loan shark? In America, we call them loan sharks. That means they loan you money with such high interest that by the time you pay interest, you paid 1,000 times more than what you borrowed. So those are called loan sharks. So this mind is like a loan shark. It sits with those emotions and it wants more and more and more and more and more. And eventually, when you start to pay your repayment on these loans, what happens is your emotions are very strong. You'll notice someone says something, your reactions are very, very amplified. So every response to anyone in this world, positive or negative, responses are amplified. And we often have chronic stress, our relationships break down, and we have loss of clarity, a loss of purpose. These are all the repayment plans that the mind puts us through. So, this process, how does it work? How does the mind keep track and how this emotional debt works? So, the sages explain to us there is something called the chitta. When we interact with the world, it gets impressions. And those impressions, when you sit with them, they creates emotions, and those emotions turn into desires. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to his dear friend Arjuna in this beautiful dialogue. While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment from them. From such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. From anger, delusion of memory, and memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls back down into the material pool. The material pool is the cycle of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. So, this is, in a nutshell, the whole emotional debt and the process, how it reoccurs interest, and we continue to pay such a high dividend. So, the sages are explaining to us the process, okay, of how to pay this debt off all at once. Because we have to go back to the source of who we are. A little bit more on the thoughts of this uh, emotional debt. Emotional debt is the hidden sorrow that is not forgotten, but what it does, it changes its name and it never leaves you. That's an emotional debt. Just so that you get more idea of what an emotional debt is. Emotional debt is what you bury in silence, and it does not sleep, and it starts to grow its roots in the dark. So there's emotions that we have not sat with. This is what happens.
Oh man.
So there's another idea of this concept of this emotional debt is the wound that you refuse to touch, and that wound becomes a door that you cannot open. Because all of this are God's gift to all of us to try and help us to enter back into our true spiritual identity. So, sages are explaining to us how to deal with this emotional debt. And very beautiful prescriptions are there. The first prescription on how to pay this emotional debt is through intelligence, jnana, with knowledge. Knowledge means it brings about awareness of what is really happening. Because in the emotional debt stage, you cannot have access to this immense reservoir because it's so heavy and it's overpowering. The interest rates are extremely heavy. I give you an example, personal example. When I first bought a house in the United States, it had a fluctuating adjustable rate mortgage, which means when I bought the house, it has interest rate of 4%, but then it would fluctuate to 15%, 16%, to 26%, to the point where I couldn't pay the loan. And what happens when you don't pay the loan? The banks want to come and take your home. So what I had to do is I had to go and get a fixed interest rate on my home loan so that we would make a steady payment on that loan. So this process of keeping a steady progress, steady payment, or a regular payment of this loan, this emotional debt loan, first is through the process of cultivating intelligence, jnana. And that happens through the study of the ancient text. The ancient text is a reservoir of spiritual wisdom and knowledge, and it helps you to become emotionally debt-free. And part of that process of knowledge acquisition that helps you to become emotionally debt-free, the first step they will teach you is the principle of acceptance. There's a recognition. Awareness grows with intelligence. And then the next is acceptance of the current situation that we are in. And not blaming anyone. Very important. That it is a debt that we have, an emotional that we have, and it is us that each and every one of us individually we have to pay these emotional debts. And it's no one else's problem, because the human tendency is that when I have a problem, it's because of everyone else or it's because of someone else. It's not because I took that loan. And everyone else must pay for my loan. This is how the loan shark, which is the mind, that's how it thinks. Okay, so the point of paying the loan back is that so you can actually experience freedom. And the final stage of paying this loan back is taking shelter of something that is superior to our own efforts. And that is taking shelter of the divine, taking shelter of God. And when we take shelter of God, what happens is, because He's the one that provides all these emotions to us, when we sit in our personal, intimate relationship with the divine, then the loans, interest rates drop, drop, drop to the point where the Father says, you know what? You're debt free. You no longer have to deal with anger. You don't have to deal with resentment. You don't have to deal with guilt. You don't have to deal with, all those other dark emotions that were completely saturating every ounce of energy that you have left. Because you have taken shelter and surrendered to the very source of all of these emotions. So, in essence, the principle of surrender is the source and the seed and the process of paying all of this mental debt, all this emotional debt that we acquire. So, this was my thought for today, because on our tour, we're discussing a lot these deep interactive sessions that we're having about emotions and how to sit with them, how to not reject them, how to not suppress them, how to not pass it on to others. Multi-generational emotional hand-downs. It's not fair on our next generation. And so the process of how to pay these emotional debts. So, any reflections, thoughts, questions, or comments? I wanted to add there because there's a lot to share, and I thought it would be good to have a discussion. Anyone has any questions or reflections? Kesharini, I see your hand. Please share with us.
Yeah, Haribol, everyone. Yeah, Veda, I have a question. Connecting to the step of acceptance, because yeah, it's really, really important to accept that those emotions are ours. But how can you help someone who is blaming and cannot see that the debt is his or hers, and getting out of this victim mode, but in a gentle way? How can you help them to get out of that without telling them you are playing the victim and you should accept?
Yeah. Often when someone is paying a very, very high interest on this emotional debt, it is very difficult for such persons to be rational. So when you try to have a rational discussion, it's not going to work because this emotional debt is situated in the mind, and you cannot talk to someone's mind and make sense. And even the intelligence is possibly there is a window with the intelligence that you could possibly get through to them. But the most powerful way to enter into that space to help someone is to enter into their heart. By you making an effort to enter into their heart space, because it is only from the heart that they will be able to recognize the emotional debt. If you are cooking pasta while sitting in a pot of big, massive pasta pot, you're not going to be able to think straight because you're burning. So that's their situation. So emotional debt is a very difficult debt to pay. And so therefore, we have to enter at the very person that they are, not what they're going through. We don't want to enter into their mind because it'll blow up, minefield, and intelligence. It'll just be a constant pushback. But if you are able to enter their heart, then you'll be able to help them to see their own truth. That the high interest that they're paying on their emotional debt, that they don't have to pay if you just come to the heart. And you really take this four process, simple steps, four simple process, simple steps to pay off this debt. And that can only happen when we enter their heart.
And how do you enter the heart?
Yes. To enter someone's heart is actually quite simple. It is through the practice of bhakti. And one of our sages always explains, you must cook for them, you must feed them. Food is the entrance point to anyone's heart. Because when you cook for someone, what you're doing is you're investing your heart into it, your consciousness into it. And when we put consciousness into the food and they eat that food, you have entered their heart. And it's only a matter of time they will open their heart and be willing to have a heart-to-heart talk. In our communities, we are always encouraging everyone not to have mental discussions, not to have intellectual discussions, but to really have heart discussions. Because heart discussions are the hardest thing to do. Because it is the truth. And the mind does not want you to have truthful discussions. Because it wants a high interest. And the more it can keep you away from your heart, it wins the battle. So that's why the process of bhakti is really, really about heart communications. Great saint named Rupa Goswami, he expresses this principle. He provides the 6 loving exchanges. Dadati pratigrihnati guhyam akhyati prichati bhunkte bhojayate chaivam shadvidham pratilakshanam. In Sanskrit, where he expresses that loving exchange means we cook for one another and we share consciousness because that is the entry point into someone's heart. And the second is to have heart-to-heart communications. That means expressing our feelings and our emotions from the heart with a sense of vulnerability, because heart is the most vulnerable place and it is the source of your power. The mind and the intelligence is not the source of power. Heart is the source of power. And that is where vulnerability comes from. Vulnerability is not a quality of the mind or the intellect. Vulnerability is the nature of the heart. And that is a superpower. And that is where bhakti starts. Bhakti doesn't start in the mind. I don't know if that helped to clarify this point. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kesharini. Anyone wants to add or subtract anything? Shiva, please.
Thank you, Veda, for the class today. It was really good and touches a lot of points home personally. My question is one, can you give us the other four, 6 exchanges of love? And then 2, how do you take rest when you're doing these things, but you don't want to get burnt out, but you can feel it coming? So what is some ways to be able to take rest in the process?
Beautiful question, Shiva. You know, at one time I had asked a teacher, I said, how is it possible that you go on 2 hours of sleep? Can you imagine 24 hours and you're running on 2 hours of sleep? Modern science explains that people who don't get enough sleep, the brain eats itself. So, how is it possible that the sages could run on 2 hours of sleep? And he explained to me that when you're engaged in heart work, because it is your home, it is the most safe, sacred space of pure comfort and joy. So, when you're doing hard work, you automatically realize that everything you're doing, you're simply a conduit. You're an instrument in this world. So then there is no burnout because the heart doesn't burn. The thing that burns is the mind and the intellect. So these burnouts are avoidable when we remain in this consciousness that we are instrument simply meant to love others and be loved by others. So whenever we're doing something, we do it out of love. If we can't do it out of love, then we pause because it'll cause a burnout. So the point is how to continuously try and filter our actions and our consciousness through the lens of bhakti, through the lens of pure unconditional exchange. Even though we may be working, we may be doing, but how do we do it in the most kind, the most possible, the most compassionate way that we can? If we cannot, then we don't have to really act in that place. So burnout is a real thing. It's a real thing. We overwork and we are continuously situated in our mind and it gets to us and we don't have a choice but to succumb to the to the high emotional debt that we are forced to pay by our loan shark, the mind. Shiva, did that make any sense?
Yes, it made a lot of sense. Kind of what came up for me is just asking myself, why am I doing it? If I'm starting to feel, any resistance or whatever might come up in that moment, just reminding myself that I can pause and then ask from a loving place myself those questions. Would that be
Yeah.
something?
Yes, yes, beautiful. So asking why questions are the most powerful ways to pause yourself. So beautiful, beautiful. Nita, you want to share something? Nita always has wisdom to share. You're on mute.
No, I didn't have anything in particular besides, yeah. What was the question to share on? Like I didn't burnout or
Any reflections on today's discussion?
I think, yeah, it is very, yeah, I think you answered both the questions very beautifully on how to reflect on our actions by asking questions, and it helps to have that in our daily life, always questioning and acting from a place of overflow, so that when your cup is full and then it's overflowing, and then that's what service should be about. Otherwise, service or giving should be about, and when it is not in from that overflow, that when our cup is not full, it allows us to have space and allows us to ask the question why, and then reminds us that now it's time to really pray. Oh, my cup got empty a little bit, and I can really pray in that moment. So I think that was what I was thinking. But yeah, those signals of burnout and other things are just an indication that we have to humble ourselves to know that we are not the doers, and we have to pray to receive the strength and energy to do things. So yeah, that's what is there.
Thank you, Nitai. I realize our time is over, and I appreciate all of you for taking the time this morning to join us. I humbly appeal to all of you that please share your heart every single day with others and cultivate your own spiritual practice and your strength. And always try to remain in your heart so you don't have to pay high interest on this emotional debt, because it's a very, very high price that we have to pay. So thank you very much. Keshavi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you covered today is really kind of directly aligned with what we're doing in the Chitta Cleanse. So I put the Chitta Cleanse waitlist link, which Veda, maybe you could talk a little bit more about what you plan to do next.
Oh, yes, yes. There's a huge waiting list. I think there's about 50 Bulgarians lined up to sign up for the Chitta Cleanse, and then the Dutch, the Germans, and the Belgians. We're doing it in French, Kesharini, and she's going to translate for the French, and we'll have a Dutch translator. Mantrini is helping with that, and we'll have in English. So we'll have it in 3 different languages. So we recommend for those of you who would like to know more about how to work with your emotions and to extract the virtue and the truth, your personal truth, and find all this beautiful virtues of this so-called traumas in our lives. If you put your name on the list, we'll be sending you, we're just scheduling the right time for it. It'll be online, and we're going to do it, all the groups. We're going to do Chitta Cleanse, and everyone is invited to join us. The conclusion of the Chitta Cleanse will include you finding your dharma, your purpose in this world, which becomes your guiding light to your truth and ultimately to the absolute truth. And so, yeah, Keshav is doing a global coordination. So anybody who would like to join, it's once a week, it's an hour and a half, and it's a 5-month course, but it's something that is extremely helpful. It helped me in my own life. So when I created this course after spending 27 years working on it, now it's available to all of you. Okay. Thank you all.
Things. Sorry, there's a couple other things too. We do have a New Hampshire retreat coming up in July. I put the link there. 2 India tours are now launched for October, November. So please email Vedaji Tours for that. And then I know we have a Georgia retreat as well coming up. Madhavi, I put your number in here. I hope that's okay. But that's in, I want to say, July as well.
It's a lot of cool things coming up.
Yes.
Thank you all very much. I'm very grateful to each and every one of you for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. And if you have any topics or questions you would like me to discuss or share with everyone, please don't hesitate to send it to us on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on WhatsApp, or any way you would like to